Hi, everybody. I'm about to show you how to complete the square. You might be wondering what that is or why that would be necessary. If you take a look at this equation in example 4, it is an equation for a circle. I know this because it has an x squared and a y squared in it, but it doesn't look anything like the standard form that we've been working on in class. So we need to learn how to get it into the right format by doing something called completing the square. I'm going to show you some skills first to kind of set the scene to make sure that you're ready. So first thing that we're going to do is a little bit of factoring practice. So I'm going to make my box. I want x squared and 36. So the first thing that comes to my mind is 6 times 6 gives me 36 because 36 is a perfect square. Does 6x and 6x give me the 12x that I'm looking for? And it does. So if I write these as factors, my two factors are x plus 6 and x plus 6. Or x plus 6 squared is actually how we're going to write it later that's going to end up benefiting us. Let's see if the second one ends up being similar to that. If it is, 64 is another perfect square, so I'm going to look at using 8 and 8 to make 64. However, this time I need negative 16, so I'm actually going to want negative 8 and negative 8. Do those add up to the negative 16x that I'm looking for? And it does. So it's another perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to jump, instead of writing x minus 8 times x minus 8, I'm going to jump right to the x minus 8 squared. Understanding how to factor a perfect square trinomial is going to be kind of the key for doing the completing the square work that we're about to do. Number 2 takes it one step further. This time I want you to factor it into a perfect square, but I'm not actually telling you what that last blank is going to be. So I need to kind of think about what happened in the last example. I have x squared, so I have x and x. Then my negative 20x needs to be split into two parts, but they need to be two equal parts if I'm going to get a perfect square. So I'm going to split them into negative 10x and negative 10x. That's to make sure that those two terms add up to the middle term. If I do that, I know now what I need to fill in the blank with. Negative 10 times negative 10 is 100. So if I fill in the blank with 100, then it will factor into x minus 10 squared. Let's see if we can do that for the next one without even making a box. So actually, no, I will make a box. I need 144 this time. So x squared, I'm going to have x and x. 144, I'm going to have 12 and 12. I guess one thing that's a little bit tricky for this one is I don't actually know if I need negative 12 and negative 12 or positive 12 and positive 12. So I guess because there's a plus in there, we'll assume that we just needed positive 12 and positive 12. So those two terms add up to this missing middle term, which is 24x. All right, after doing those couple of examples, I think we have the foundational skills needed in order to get our equations in standard form. This first example is a little bit more straightforward because I can just take this yellow part and factor it because it's a perfect square trinomial, and then I can take the blue part and factor it because it's a perfect square trinomial, and then it will be in perfect standard form. So I'm going to do the yellow part. I'm going to try it without making a box this time. So I'm going to take my 8x and split it into two equal parts, 4 and 4. And 4 times 4 does give me 16. So it looks like x plus 4 squared will be the combination that works. And then I'm going to take my negative 14y and split it into two parts, negative 7 and negative 7. When you multiply those together, it does give you 49. And now it's in perfect standard form, so I'm ready to find the center and the radius. So the center, since it's x plus 4 squared, is negative 4, and since it's y minus 7 squared is positive 7. And then to get the radius, we're going to use the 9, but don't forget to root it. So the radius is 3. All right, and then the next one, we have to do a little bit more work because if you take a look at this blue part or this yellow part, it's missing some key information to be a perfect square trinomial. So x squared plus 14x, it's missing a piece. y squared plus 2y. It's missing a piece. It's missing the perfect square. So let's see if we can complete the perfect square. This x squared plus 14x actually looks very similar to this blue one right here. It had a 49 with it, because if I split my 14 into two parts, it would be 7 and 7, which makes 49. So that factors into, it's positive 14x this time though, so x plus 7 squared. And then this next part, if I split my 2 into two equal parts, it's 1 and 1, which makes 1. I broke some rules of what you're allowed to do to an equation, though. I just added stuff to the left-hand side of an equation, which I'm not allowed to do unless I add those same two things to the right-hand side. So this 49 that I added here, I'm not allowed to do that unless I add it here too. And this 1 that I added over here, I'm not allowed to do that unless I add 1 to this side also. So 14 plus 49 plus 1 is 64. And now it is set up for me to find my center and my radius. So the center, since it's x plus 7 squared, is negative 7. Y plus 1 squared, negative 1. And then 64, I can root it. And I get 8. Let's do 2 more quick examples. They're the same thing as what we just practiced. They're just a little bit more challenging because they're mixed up a little bit. So this time we don't have everything all together like we need to. So I need to bring that 8x over to join the x squared, and I need to bring the 14y over. Now all of a sudden I'm ready to complete the square. So x squared minus 8x plus blank, y squared plus 14y plus blank, and then 35, and then whatever I added to the left-hand side, I have to make sure that I add to the right-hand side too. All right, split the negative 8 into two parts. That's negative 4 and negative 4, which is 16. If I do it to the left, I have to do it to the right. And then split my 14 into two parts, 7 and 7. So that's 49. And if I do that to the left, I have to do it to the right. And then all I have to do is combine all of these terms together. 35, let me grab a calculator. 35 plus 16 plus 49 is 100. So it even has a nice radius. So this is considered standard form for a circle equation. Let's do one more. I'm taking a look at number 6, and immediately I think, ooh, that one looks very different than ones that we've done before, because all of a sudden it's not just x squared, it's 3x squared. But don't worry, everything is divisible by 3, so we can just divide both sides of this equation by 3. So instead of 3x squared, it's going to be x squared. Instead of 66x, it's going to be 22x. And then I'm going to put in my plus blank. And then instead of 3y squared, it's going to be y squared. Instead of minus 12y, it's going to be minus 4y. And then 132 divided by 3, let me grab my calculator for that. It is 44. What am I forgetting? If I added blanks to the left-hand side, I have to add them to the right-hand side too. All right, let's try out what we've practiced. We're going to split the 22 into two parts. That's 11 and 11, which is 121. Then we're going to split negative 4 into two parts, which is negative 2 and negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And all I have to do is combine my like terms on the right. So let me grab my calculator and do 44 plus 121 plus 4. 169. So again, it has a nice radius because that's a perfect square. And here's the equation of my circle in standard form. Let me know what questions you have. Bye.